Hello everyone and welcome to Action RPG. I'm your host Aaron, and for today's video we're headed to the world of Chris Wilson's YouTube channel. Now if you follow me at all, you know that I don't do a ton of reaction content. That being said, in this instance, I was going to watch this video anyways. We just did a full playthrough of Diablo II Reign of the Warlock. So this is a 9-minute video from Chris Wilson. I have not watched 1 minute on it. He is obviously one of the top dogs in this genre, so I want to hear what he has to say, and if you want to hang out, please do.
Hi, I'm Chris Wilson.
Hi.
As you probably know, I'm a huge Diablo II fan, to the extent that I co-created Path of Exile as an homage to it. Well, last week, Blizzard shadow dropped a new character class in Diablo II for the first time in 25 years, in an update called Reign of the Warlock. This is a unique situation for me, because it's the intersection of my lifelong love for Diablo II and my career, where I had to design, scope out, and release almost 40 expansion updates to a live-action RPG. There's a lot of feedback online about Reign of the Warlock, and I want to present my personal point of view on it. I want to talk about some of the decisions the developers likely faced, the various choices they had available, and the consequences of those choices. I've got nothing but respect.
Now, I should say right at the beginning of the video, I played Reign of the Warlock for 3 or 4 days. We did one full playthrough. I actually really enjoyed it. I have not truly dug into Diablo 2 in probably over a decade. That game is the reason why I started a YouTube channel, obviously titled Action RPG. So I got a lot of respect for Blizzard North and what they created, and we had a lot of fun with the Warlock.
For the Diablo II Resurrected team at Blizzard, who are pushing hard to bring us new content for the game that we love. They may watch this video, so I want to make it clear, I've been having a great time in Reign of the Warlock so far. And I'm just trying to provide a fellow developer's perspective on what it's like trying to thread the needle on an update like this. I should make it clear that I am not affiliated with Blizzard, and these opinions are my own. While some people on Reddit may have decided that the Chris Wilson on the Diablo team is the same person as me, that's actually not the case. It's just a popular build in this meta. When working on changes to Diablo 2, you need to be so careful. This is a very special game. It launched the entire action RPG genre. It feels like wherever I go in life, I can ask someone if they've played Diablo 2 before, and they not only say yes, but have incredibly fond memories of playing it as a kid, a teenager, or while at university. Diablo 2 is a common shared memory among all of us, and that's why it must be treated with the utmost care. And it's very clear that the D2R team does deeply care about this. This is most clear when you see how they have partitioned off the changes into a new era that you can choose on a per-character basis. If at any point a change is made that hurts the game, players still have the original pre-Reign of the Warlock era of Diablo II Resurrected available to enjoy forever. I've seen people comment that various quality of life improvements in Reign of the Warlock are paygated behind the purchase of this update. I suspect that the intent wasn't about selling more copies, but about preserving a museum piece baseline. To me, those features being only available in the new era is the ultimate sign of respect to the original game. The team seems fully aware of the care that needs to be taken around this important piece of gaming history and are treating it with the respect that it deserves. So,
I don't know about that. I do think that they want to sell as many copies as possible, but both things can be true. This is going to help them sell a ton of copies, and on the flip side, they can preserve D2. I love that you could play D2R and you could literally flip the graphics back to the old way. You get all the new quality of life features, you get the new visuals, you could literally choose your Diablo 2 experience. Pretty smart.
Reign of the Warlock includes a new character class, but doesn't include substantial new exploration content, like a new act, for example. I think this may actually be a strategic mistake. Now, it may sound a bit rich of me to just wave my hand and inflict the expectation of dozens of developer years of work on their team. I'm fully aware of how much effort it takes to produce an entirely new act for an action RPG. It would take a year plus of development and millions of dollars. But I feel that this would have very much paid for itself several times over. I suspect the most likely reason that this update didn't contain a new act is the extra year of development would push it out from being able to be released this month, where Blizzard is celebrating the 35th anniversary of the company, the 30th anniversary of the Diablo franchise, and doing the marketing for its Diablo 4 expansion. It may not have been possible, due to this timing, for them to consider the dramatic increase in scope that a new act would entail for this update.
Is a new act on the table? Has Blizzard Entertainment said that the future of D2 is expansions with more acts and characters? I have not heard that, if that's true. A new act would have been sweet.
Update. My issue with this update is that without an act, it essentially boils down to a new character class, some quality of life features, and some new endgame content. But the quality of life features and endgame content are only really relevant for enfranchised players who are actively playing and will benefit from them. Most people don't re-engage with a game just because it now has a material stash tab or an uber variation of the Ancients fight. They want new experiences from it. A new act would have pretty much guaranteed that everyone who had a chance of re-engaging with Diablo II would have purchased and played the update. Without new exploration content, it's down to the Warlock to sell the update. But I have some concerns with one of the aspects of how the Warlock was showcased at its announcement. Several of my friends were hyped by the announcement stream and then immediately found and watched additional videos that showcased late-game Warlock gameplay using pinnacle runewords like Enigma. Getting to see the character dominate the game's hardest content took away some of their desire to play. This is something that I learned the hard way with Path of Exile. You want to show enough to interest people, but if you show everything, some people may skip playing that update entirely because they've seen it all already. My recommendation is to show the fantasy of the character and a fair demonstration of its abilities, but to try as hard as possible to encourage players to discover new endgame builds and their rewards by themselves.
This is something that's talked about all the time, that a new season or a new league is launched, but the game is already fully figured out. It's like, oh, PoE drops the druid and we already know the full end game guides, things of that nature. People hate this.
Interesting to consider with the Warlock is that it probably wasn't the result of someone sitting down and asking what class would be best to add to Diablo 2. It was simultaneously announced for Diablo 4, Diablo Immortal, and Diablo 2. Because Diablo 4 is Blizzard's current flagship Diablo product and is generating a lot more money than Diablo 2, it's very likely that the priority was finding a class that fit in perfectly with Diablo 4 and could essentially be ported to the other two games for marketing benefit. As someone who cares deeply about every change to Diablo 2 being in its absolute best interest, the idea of a class being added because it was in Diablo 4 did upset me a little. But despite this, I think the Warlock class itself is cool. Thematically, I don't have any concerns with it.
It's a pretty interesting point that they almost like ported it. Have you seen like a mobile game and they port it to PC? Now you got the Warlock in D4. Hey, that'll fit in D2. That'll sell a couple million copies. Go ahead. Almost like an afterthought.
It fits in with the world well and is fun to play. I feel that the D2R team did a great job putting a D2 spin on the class. Things like binding demons really feel like Diablo 2 concepts, similar to Iron Golem and Revive, and very likely wouldn't be the way the class works in other Diablo games, which I appreciate. However, the Warlock was very clearly designed with modern action RPG sensibilities and decades of genre experience behind the team. As a result, it doesn't really have many bad skills, and that makes it stand out when compared to Diablo 2's other 7 classes. This class is a strong spellcaster, a strong summoner, and is strong at both ranged and melee combat. It even has a teleport. It feels like it has been designed to appeal to everyone, and because of that, it doesn't really feel like an actual Diablo 2 character class. At the time of recording this, which is before any nerfs were done to the Warlock, its power level is pretty high. People are even saying that the Spectral Throw build is stronger than a Mosaic Assassin. This is one of the difficulties when designing a new character class in isolation for a game. Developers don't want to risk undershooting its power level and having people hate it on release, so it's very tempting to aim a bit high with the power level. Unfortunately, release day is when people have had the least time to actually solve the puzzle of boosting its power using other game elements. So if it feels punchy on release day to give people a positive first impression, then it's probably really broken once built correctly a few weeks later. Blizzard faces a difficult problem here, because one group of players rightly doesn't like it when certain builds are massively more powerful than other builds, as it makes them mandatory for competitive players to play. Another group of players really hates the idea of their fun being ruined by nerfs. They like a powerful character. So far, the D2R team has been very careful with nerfs, which is sensible, but they're going to have to take a stance on the Warlock soon. Some people have suggested buffing the legacy classes to be as powerful as the Warlock, but this runs the risk of kicking off a live service power creep cycle, where class power gets raised, making the game feel really easy, so new harder content is added, and then a new update comes out with even more power that is able to dominate that content, and the cycle repeats. This is something that
I really hope they don't do that. Take all the other classes and boost it to the Warlock level. It reminds me of Spiritborn when it dropped for Diablo 4's first expansion. And everyone's like, Spiritborn's so broken. Why don't they bring everything to that level? Bad idea.
Diablo 2 hasn't had to deal with since version 1.10 in 2003, but if it's going to start receiving continued updates, then the developers will need to be very mindful of it. One thing that was immediately disappointing to me was that Reign of the Warlock removes the ability to switch to legacy graphics mode. One of the coolest things about Diablo II Resurrected is that it allows you to toggle between the new remastered graphics and the original legacy graphics. While its legacy mode somehow feels and looks a bit worse than the original game did, it is very interesting being able to see how faithful yet augmented the remastered graphics are, side by side with the original. The original game used a 2D engine that at every frame of every animation, at every angle, rendered out as separate 2D sprites. My understanding is that this was achieved by some complicated custom tooling, where they rendered out large sprite sheets from 3D Studio Max. This was made even more complex by the presence of attachments like helmets or weapons that had to be layered onto the characters or monsters correctly. Properly recreating this 25-year-old pipeline and getting it to generate compatible sprite sheets would be a lot of work. A lot of work. Allegedly, when D2R launched in China, it didn't include the legacy graphics option. This is likely because the art required culturalization changes, and they were unable to easily apply those changes to the old graphics. This suspicion was basically confirmed when Reign of the Warlock launched without legacy graphics support either. Updating the old art, for the small percentage of users who occasionally flick to it, would be an immense undertaking and probably not worth the effort from a commercial point of view. While I would absolutely love to see how the Warlock would look with 2000-era graphics, I don't blame them for removing the legacy graphics option. At least it's still available in the original pre-Reign of the Warlock era of D2R. This is why separating the game into eras actually makes sense. The current era is not held back by having to conform to the technical requirements of the original 2D engine. So while I was disappointed by this omission, I understand it and I'm hopeful that it lets them really flex their muscles with more graphical improvements and later updates.
While I was streaming, everyone's like, flip to the old graphics. And I was like, I can't. They don't support it in this. With Chris Wilson, I was very sad about that option being removed. Even my family, when I was playing, they wanted me to go to the old graphics. And I was like, I can't.
Honestly, I found the announcement of Reign of the Warlock quite surreal. Seeing a few features we designed for Path of Exile come full circle back into Diablo II felt like a huge honor, regardless of where the inspiration was actually from. It made me feel that I indirectly contributed a little bit back to my favorite game. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and consider subscribing. It helps a lot. Thanks very much, and see you next time.
Thanks, Chris Wilson. You have done so much for the action RPG genre. His YouTube channel is exploding. I will put it as first link in the description below. I like everything he had to say in this video. Well, I like everything that he said in this video. The only thing I would say is that I don't think that they gated this behind a paywall to sell more copies. Blizzard Entertainment, I do think that there was at least some discussion around how can we sell as many copies as possible, but that doesn't mean that the other stuff is not true as well. So great video. I was going to watch this anyways. Again, I don't do a lot of React content, but I thought this one with Diablo 2 and Chris Wilson was worth it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you agree with what the master of action RPGs has to say? Let me know in the comment section. Please like, share, and subscribe if you think I've earned it. Don't forget to check my website, actionrpg.com. And if you enjoy the videos and enjoy the streams, I bet you'll enjoy the Discord. Right now we have a giveaway for an Action RPG hat, and all the subathon shenanigans and events and movie nights and game nights are all through Discord. I'm done. Hopefully you were entertained or at least learned something. Aaron, out.